Hey, just a quick thing to explain what this is. Riot's been doing these like press conferences with the teams for Worlds. So anyway, that's what you're seeing here. It's like a Zoom call, but I thought it's cool content, so I just decided to post the whole thing. Enjoy.
My question is, as a squad, as a roster, you have a few players who are slightly on the older side by sort of League of Legends norm. We like to hear this narrative that older players aren't as capable. Is this something that you would agree with?
I think generally I do agree with that statement when it's a little bit older than the players that we actually do have. But I think it's not because of like a reaction time or like a mechanical reason. It's more of I think the older you get naturally, I think your motivation and passion for the game tends to decrease just with life, everything life throws at you. But for us at FlyQuest and our players, I think our players are extremely motivated. I think they're really hungry for their first title for the organization, and I think they're really excited to perform well at Worlds.
Thanks, Inzu. Thanks, David. I think we just had Tricia join. Hey, Tricia. All right, we'll take the next question from Dustin. Go ahead, Dustin.
Oh, hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, great. FlyQuest has kind of gone through like a renaissance this year. What has that been like, changing the community's perception of the organization from just another LCS franchise to one of the biggest brands in the LCS?
I actually like Tricia to answer that first.
You're muted, Tricia.
Go for it, Tricia. You're muted. You're muted on the on Zoom.
Hi, sorry guys. A lot of technical difficulties today. Can you repeat that question for me?
Sure. FlyQuest has kind of gone through a little bit of a renaissance this year, just in terms of community perception and stuff like that. What's it been like to see the community kind of like embrace FlyQuest as one of the top teams in the LCS and not just like just another brand that's a part of the LCS?
Yeah, quite candidly, we were dubbed Team Snickers, a really cringe-worthy brand previously, and we've put in so much effort to make sure that everybody understands what FlyQuest is about. So our vision is showcase greatness, and that is the belief that we think that greatness already exists within everyone, and we want to help people find and showcase it. That's why we did our Go Green initiative this year, which is about saving the planet, and you see that follow through with our campaigns Tree Quest, where we planted 10,000 trees, and also Sea Quest, where we recently became champions of the reef, where we're donating over $10,000 to the Coral Reef Alliance. And when we win this Sunday, we'll donate $10,000 more. So it means everything for us. I mean, we really work really hard here. We're a small team of 8 people here at FlyQuest, and we've done, I think, everything to make sure that we have a North Star, we have that vision, and we've stayed true. And it's just really, we're just really grateful to see that people have stood behind that.
Thanks, Tricia. Thanks, Justin. Okay. All right, we've got the next question from Adele. Go ahead, Adele.
So this question is going to be to David Lim and Anand Agarwal. I think it's Curry and D-Lim. So this is mostly about finding the balance within the lineup on a coaching standpoint between having like a good mid jungle and a good mid support as well. So what were the challenges in having that?
For me, I think at the start there were some challenges with what roles needed to play the playmaking side, what roles needed to play a little bit more to sacrifice. But I think our players have a lot of veterancy and a lot of chemistry, so there wasn't actually that much challenge involved at all. I think our players naturally fit in really well together, and it honestly made, I think, my job a lot easier. And I think it's really showing in their play recently. I think they play together really well, and it kind of shows how we get our advantages.
Great, thank you. Okay, next question from Tom. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, hi. My question is for Tricia, and it's a bit expanding on the question that Dustin asked earlier, because FlyQuest did a really good job at rebranding itself, or rather establishing its brand in NA. But I think it's fair to say that internationally, when I talk to people here in EU, for example, that FlyQuest is not as known as teams like Cloud9, TSM, and Team Liquid. So with Worlds in mind, how does FlyQuest seek to use that opportunity to establish its brand internationally?
Great question. So first of all, just to kind of go back to the last question, again, we're very proud of what we accomplished this year, but in no way are we starting. We're not chilling. We have a lot planned for Worlds. So as we did TreeQuest and SeaQuest, we'll also be doing XQuest. I can't give out spoilers right now, but I can tease that there will be a specific quest for Worlds, and it will incorporate a new Worlds jersey and also give a lot of, I think, an introduction to the fans across the world, like what you're saying. Our intention is to make sure that FlyQuest is recognizable in North America. That was our initial start. And now we're putting that same energy, that same effort, while staying true to our vision of showcasing greatness to everyone else. And I hope that in conjunction with all the efforts that our competitive team did and the results, we want to make sure that we're using this opportunity to, go to Worlds, as it's such a privilege to be able to expand and show people that we want to use our platform to do good. So I'm very excited, and I think that a lot of the brand will stand out because, we're not just known as so-and-so team. We have a very well-positioned brand. And again, it all ties back to doing good in the world.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to Eduardo. Go ahead, Eduardo.
My question is to Tricia. We've seen, as you said it, FlyQuest has done an amazing work around these campaigns like TreeQuests and most recent SeaQuest. So now that you're traveling to Worlds in China, does FlyQuest has anything special for one of the most polluted countries in the world?
So I think, first of all, we're well positioned to distinctly say that we're the wholesome brand, we're the good brand, right? We do a lot of charitable things.
Okay.
And like I mentioned, without being able to share more, we'll actually be announcing in a few weeks exactly what we're doing for Worlds. What I can say is it will be a specific quest. It will be an homage back to the former quest that we did. I think it'll be very inclusive. It'll still be under our Go Green initiative, which is all about saving the planet. So we will talk about that more. And recently we just released Midori, which is an anime series all about saving the planet, in a fun way. So what I can tell you 100% what you expect is a new jersey, a lot more content, and a lot bigger push. And I think more charitable ideas and also more funding towards our Go Green initiative.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next question from Jared. Go ahead, Jared.
Hi, I just had a question for Delim and Curry. So you guys, obviously the roster has not been to Worlds before, but 4 of the 5 players have. What sort of experience have you guys been working with from their perspective on their previous experiences in competition, from like Turtle and Santorin from playing on TSM, and then Power of Evil and Ignar from playing on Misfits?
Curry, you can answer this one.
I think we just have a lot of, like you said, we just have a lot of veteran presence. Them having been to Worlds before just gives us, I think they just have a lot of perspective on like how important it is, how important each regular season game is, how important each playoff game is. And I think all 4 of them, I mean, even Colin included, even though he hasn't been to Worlds, they all just have like very cool heads when it comes to taking things game by game and also preparing for like the playoff series. And I think kind of when you have those veteran players, the playoff series is usually where they really shine because they're just very good at like resetting game to game, coming in with like a strong plan and not like kind of getting fatigued over the like long series. And one of the things we've seen is just like we've won all our game fives in all our series this year, and I think a lot of that has just come down to the fact that like those players are such veteran players, and they really don't let the pressure get to them. Once you've played on kind of that world stage, the pressure of playing in a game five in your own region can't really compare. So we've never really felt too much of the pressure, and we never really let it get to us. I think that's like a huge reason for why we've been able to like qualify for worlds, and another reason why I think we're also going to do really well when we get there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Got a question coming from Parks. Go ahead, Parks.
Thanks. Hey, y'all. I guess I will ask this to Nick. It's kind of similar to what a lot of people have been talking about. But I think the LCS is a lot stronger when we have more brands. And obviously, FlyQuest has done very well with that this year. And I think if we saw more work from other teams, it would help kind of distinguish everyone and give the whole league more value. What would your hope be for other teams kind of creating that in the future? And what were kind of some of the things that you had to learn that were maybe more difficult or really important for you guys that helped it work out?
Well, I mean, I think aside from me answering this, I think Tricia could probably also give a good answer to this as well. I think when we look at other brands in the LCS specifically, when you take wins and losses away, what is your differentiating factor is probably one of the number one questions that we asked internally. I think Tricia took that question head on and I think did a really good job with giving us a course for this year. It's something that really hasn't existed for us pervasively in the 2 years prior. It was kind of a buildup, right? So in 2018 and 2019, you didn't really see a lot of external messaging from us about, you know, what we're actually representative of, regardless of our wins and losses. I would say that's probably what I want to see more out of not just the newer teams, but also the old teams. This isn't necessarily a jab at anyone else, but when you look at, you know, your TSMs and your Team Liquids and your Cloud9s, I think, you know, there's small things that every organization does, you know, to impact a world bigger than esports. But when you strip the titles away, is there a big distinction between each one of those organizations? And I think that for some people, that's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Got one question from Nick. Go ahead, Nick.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
Awesome. This one's for David and for Anand, actually. You guys put together a really great roster for 2020, and you've actually been hovering around top 2 for pretty much the entire year, right? Can you kind of disclose some of the biggest factors that went into turning Fly into just like a top team for basically the entire year?
I think, obviously, like you mentioned, the roster was a big part of it, and I think Nick did a great job, along with our management staff, to kind of make together a roster that just made sense, and good talent along with good teamwork and personalities that make sense. But I think our environment was really productive. I think the players were able to, in both splits, we had periods of time where we weren't performing too well or at the level that we want to be, and I think we came back from that period really well both times. And I think we were in an environment where the players were allowed to make mistakes and thrive and kind of like learn from them and actually just get better. And until we fully built out our identity, and I think that really showed throughout the whole year.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, got time for a couple more, I think. Let's do one from Travis.
Hey, David, this question for you. So you tweeted about the side selection thing. I know you're smiling because you knew this question was going to come. And I'm kind of curious, like, is this a pretty big thing that is frustrating for you guys, or is it just like, oh, this would just be nice to have? I'm kind of curious, like, how important it is to you.
Sorry, am I unmuted?
Yes.
For me, honestly, I heard this news a couple days ago, and we knew about the rule, and it wasn't that big of a deal. I think we, in our last 2 series, we didn't have side selection game 1, and we won both those series. And honestly, I'm very confident versing TL, and TL is a team that this rule would apply to. But it was more of just this kind of doesn't seem right, going off of like, we beat them and they somehow still have an advantage over us. And I thought it was interesting to share and kind of get the public's perception on what they thought of it. But for us, I'm not this doesn't worry me in a sense. So I thought it would be just some food for thought that I would share.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we've got one more from Adele. Go ahead, Adele.
Right. So this one, basically, supporting a team, whether it's from the sidelines or from like a front office standpoint, is already tricky enough. But then you add the current circumstances, and it's even trickier, I would imagine. And so, what I would like to know is what was done to keep everyone motivated within the team and just keep them primed to the point where they're back-to-back finalists at the very least.
Yeah, coaches. I think coaches, you guys start on that.
Yeah, Curry, you can answer this one.
I mean, I think a lot of it just came down to the drive that we had and the hunger that we had in terms of going back to Worlds. I think that's something that we talked about even from the beginning of the year when we put together the team. We put together the team with the goal of going to Worlds. We had players who had been there before, who had been there together, like Power Evil and Ignar had been there together 3 years ago for Santorin and Wild Turtle. It had been 5 years for them, but they also went together. And I think those players had a really strong drive to go there again. I think once you've been there once and you haven't been for a while, kind of as your career goes on and on, the drive just gets stronger and stronger because it's such like a special experience. And that's something that we've really been focusing on just the entire time. And it's something that we haven't forgot about. Even in the middle of spring split, we were talking about like making sure that we're on the right path to Worlds at our current pace, because we wanted to be the best team by the end of summer to be in a position to go to Worlds. And that's kind of the thing that just kept us focused the entire time. And I think it really paid off in the end, because just as we got closer and closer to our goal, the intensity kind of like ramped up and up. And I think it showed in like our performance against C9, that how badly we'd wanted it and how bad we'd like been working on it the entire year, or how much we've been working on it the entire year.
Thanks so much for watching that interview, and all the Worlds coverage coming up soon. Of course, this interview is brought to you by Alienware, and guess what? They just announced a 360 hertz refresh rate monitor, as well as a couple others, including a 38 inch ultra wide curved display. I have a 34 right now from them, and I'm excited to upgrade. My Worlds coverage will be using some of these new monitors. So anyway, they're not available yet on their site, but more details coming soon. Wanted to give you guys a bit of a tease. And of course, there are some articles out there if you want to get a preview. If you're in the market for a monitor, take a look.